Hey everybody, Ben Frederickson here alongside Jeff Gordon talking Blues hockey this week.
Ugh.
More of the same.
Yeah.
It's just getting worse. Now
Yeah.
8 consecutive losses in regulation, worst in Blues history. And I think last week I said something along the lines of it's early, you don't overreact to November hockey. Well, Gordo, I read you and it's like the season might as well be over in November. You were kind of circling the panic button. Now you're like,
Yeah, look,
sorry for the
there's a chance that they could find the last playoff spot because there's a chance in the Western Conference that there may be a spot available because the competition, there are some teams that have played poorly. Maybe there's that last seed could be still there for them. But in the NHL, they always say the American Thanksgiving is the defining point. If you're not in the playoffs by then, it's difficult. The Blues defied that once. But Ben, they're not only losing, they're getting shelled. And, I don't know that 1 or 2 wins is really going to put this team back on the right track. They need such a dramatic turnaround where they not only win some games, but they win them win them thoroughly to convince me that this is not just the beginning of a retooling, as I wrote, that was destined to happen. It just is happening, unfortunately, at least 1 year sooner than Doug Armstrong hoped. He knew this day would come with this group. He did not expect it to come in November of 2022.
I was not the only one. Everybody pointed to the value of David Perron in the playoffs, and when the Blues let him walk for pennies on the dollar in a deal they could have come up with the money to do to Detroit. This wasn't some massive Alex Pietrangelo deal that pulled David Perron away. We kind of wondered, are they going to wind up regretting that? Now, I'm not saying they've lost 8 consecutive games because David Perron didn't walk through that door this camp, but it sure seems like they are missing some of their on-ice production, power play goals, but also some of their moxie, some of their grit, and he provided a lot of that. He was the most competitive guy on the team. It sure feels like Doug Armstrong maybe should have found a way to bring this guy back if he wanted to keep this group going.
Well, the flip side of that is if this team is so fragile that losing Perron caused it to collapse, not only lose games but get shelled, then the other way that Doug can look at it is like, well, thank God I didn't pay one more old guy because I'm having to break this team up. Because this team is way more fragile than I imagined. But it is an excellent point. They missed Ville Husso as well. That situation where you couldn't have 2 starting caliber guys getting paid starting caliber money realistically in a salary cap. You couldn't give Ville the money or the work that he was looking for. You had to commit to Jordan Binnington when you did because he won a cup. And that's where you were with a number of other players. So,
Jordan's played well. Jordan's playing pretty well this season. He's not the problem.
No, he's not. It's just, here's the thing, Bedford. They're pretty much bad at everything. I mean, the goaltending's been okay. Grice not okay in the last game, but the whole house is just caving in on the goaltenders. Shocking to see a team that in every way possible, compete level, thought process, confidence, coordination, cohesion on ice, comprehension of the scheme, execution shift to shift, every way possible. Power play, 5-on-5, penalty kill, awful, every way imaginable, awful. So, at this point, what do? Normally, you just fire the coach, but Doug Armstrong came out and said, I'm not firing a coach. This game an extension. He's won a cup. Had 109 points last year, Ben Fred. I tell you, been doing this for decades. I did not see this collapse coming. You could see it starting to happen with the Rams because Mike Martz was insane and his personnel management was so bad. And it took a little bit of time. It took a little bit of time. This team just off the cliff.
Are you in agreement with Army that it's not a Berube problem? I tend to agree with that. To me, it's like Berube showing up and saying, hey, you forget how to cover your man. Hey, you look like you're pressing one moment and look like you're lackadaisical and you don't care the next. This doesn't to me look like a coaching issue. Now, if it gets so bad where you feel like the only thing you can do is try to throw up a Hail Mary of a coaching change, it would mean Army walking back everything he just said when he tried to rattle the cage a little bit. But Army's in a bind here, Gordo. Look, we talked about the Perron thing. They gave Berube the extension, and he's standing by his guy. But also, look at the contract extensions he handed out to Kyrou. Thomas, when he doesn't play, when he's not scoring, he's doing some other things. Kyrou is not playing well, and when he doesn't score, he doesn't do a lot of other stuff. He's got their worst plus-minus. They just handed him an 8-year deal. When a team is in this bad of a spot, there's finger-pointing going on. And how can you not see some fingers pointing at the young guy who was supposed to be a key to this team and he's not producing.
Well, here's the thing. He and Thomas are the future, and other guys on the team who are pointing, if they're pointing fingers at them, they're going to be gone a lot sooner than those two guys. Those two guys aren't going anywhere. It's hard to find players like that. What you don't want to have happen with players like that is that the situation gets so sour that it derails their careers, because you are building around these two. That is the one unmistakable truth, that those are the guys that are going to be here for a long time. Those guys are hard to find unless you have lottery picks. Now, the Blues may have some more lottery picks coming up, the way they're playing, and maybe down the road you got better young guys. But
could it be possible that we went from talking about how the Blues had to find a way to extend Ryan O'Reilly to the Blues shopping both O'Reilly and Tarasenko this season for draft picks or young talent that they could put around Thomas and Kyrou?
Oh, yeah. There's no question that's where this is headed, because these guys have expiring contracts. There's no reason on earth to give O'Reilly another contract based on his play, his age, his everything about it. It's unfortunate. But when the team collapses, you go to the next level. You go to the next stage. And he's not in the next stage. 91 was never going to be in the next stage. And away we go. It's they're going to have to trade off a couple of those defensemen as they go along the way. It may not be easy, but they will. And this is where this thing is headed, barring the most amazing reversal that even tops what we saw in 2019, because that's what it's going to take.
The problem with you, Gordo, is you sugarcoat everything. So if you want more, sunshine and optimism from Gordo on the Blues season, check out STLtoday.com, and we will keep it locked there on all the Blues coverage, good, bad, or chaotic.
I will say this, too. If you didn't want more of this pumping sunshine, a whole 35 minutes of it in our podcast with Tom Timmerman and Jim Thomas. 35 minutes of gloom and doom.
You might need a stiff adult beverage to check that one out. It's at STLtoday.com. You can find the podcast, the videos, and all of our Blues coverage as well. For Jeff Gordon, I'm Ben Frederickson. Hang in there, Blues fans. We'll talk to you next week.